On everybody, push a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. What's going on, Darlene? And if you have a Twitter account, make sure you go ahead and share this stream with as many people as possible. Shoot, if you have a Facebook account, go ahead and share it there too. Just gonna wait for a few more people to come in, and we're just gonna go ahead and get started. So I see you got Darlene, Pinky, LT Nation Radio, Alana. Of course, some more people are going to be strolling in eventually. And shout out to the people that's on Twitter right now who have liked and or retweeted the stream. What's going on, Wayne? What's going on, Ashton? This is going to be a very interesting discussion that I'm bringing to y'all this evening. I actually couldn't wait to do this as a live stream when I first received this article. But I'm going to wait until some more people come in here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Now, my stream on the Streamlabs, it says I have 10 viewers, but you know, sometimes that number can be inaccurate. Because on YouTube, it says I have 16. Let's see what's going on. Cornelius, RJ Connections, Leader of the Black Order. Appreciate the super chat, LT Nation. And make sure also, if you haven't done so already, to hit the like button. Believe it or not, when you hit the like button on the stream, it actually, I guess you can say, messes with YouTube's algorithm, and it actually helps to spread the stream out even more. And especially since we know how YouTube doesn't like to send out notifications, then I need all the help I can get. And speaking of notifications, press a 1 in the chat if your bell is clicked. And if it is not clicked, make sure you go and click it now and make sure that it is grayed out, meaning that you want all notifications turned on, which means everything that I post up here, you receive. It's crazy how I can post in the community tab. Like that picture of me from the Throwback Thursday picture of me, that one got so many comments and so many likes so fast. But when it comes to the video uploads, it's like, okay, no, it's like no notifications go out. So it's like the algorithm will work for that, but it doesn't work when I share my videos. Hell, sometimes it doesn't even work when I post up a video to link people to come over to watch a video when I post it up in the community tab. But if you haven't done so already, make sure you have that bell clip and make sure that it is on. You know, with my channel, you have to check that thing every day. That's why I say if you was on Twitter and you have the notifications on there, you're most likely going to receive it. So I see a lot of ones. That's good. It says solid. Solo Dolo says solid bell. Kimberly Bryant, you said they finally let me in. Cornelia says I received the premiere notification. Kimberly, what do you mean when you said they finally let you in? What do you mean by that? I need some more clarification on that. What's going on, Nino Red? You said no notification on your end. Is the bell clicked? Is it Do you have it set to all notifications? Oh, and speaking of, the last stream that I did when I was talking about the Alphabet Academy, I was hoping that you were still in the chat because I had wanted you to call in and tell people about your experience that you dealt with the video that I did when you were talking about how someone in the Alphabet Academy was trying to get at you, and you had to calmly let them know like that, you know, that you didn't roll that way, and they ended up suspending your account for a few hours, but you was already out of the chat by that time. You said they wouldn't let you come into the chat. You said it's clicked and set to all notifications. What's going on, NJ Progressive Indie? I bet you are. Like, that's crazy. That's all I can say. That's crazy that they ended up suspending your account for a few hours because of that. And you didn't even say anything even remotely bad about them. And for those of you, if y'all was following me on Twitter, this week alone, that damn Alphabet Academy has been wilding the fuck out on Twitter. Like, that might have, like, all the stuff that I've seen this week alone, like the stuff that has come from there, or maybe their supporters, that might have to end up being my next live stream. But that would take a little bit of time to put all that stuff together because it was so much stuff that came from it that didn't make any sense. I'm not even going to talk about it on here because I don't want to derail the conversation. That's why I keep saying, like I said in my previous stream, or one of them, I think it was, that I truly believe that I am indeed shadow banned. Because one live stream that I did back in November, and I think this is before the shadow ban occurred, had like 400 live viewers, and that was when I was going in on that so-called Harriet Tubman movie, and that thing had almost 500 live viewers, which I think at the time was the most I've ever had. And then after that, it just kind of dwindled. So I truly believe that I am shadow banned, because right now I'm looking on here, and on Streamlabs it says I have 44 viewers. On YouTube it says I have 51. And mind you, I have 28,000 plus subscribers, so the numbers just don't add up. So you mean to tell me that out of 28,000 plus people who are subscribed to my channel, only 51 people are watching right now? But then when you try to tell YouTube about that, then they try to act like they don't know what's going on and say that it's something else other than what it is. But I'm already hip. I don't know how to do the shadow ban check on YouTube, to be honest. And the thing is, when they shadow ban, you don't know when it happens. You just can tell that it did, and you don't know when they'll take you off of it, because it's almost like a list. Pickles Black E. Lee said they have updated the physical internet page. You have to have the people update their subscription and bells. He says they updated it in the beginning of February. All my pages had to get their bells checked. Yeah, that's the thing with YouTube. They constantly do a lot of updates and they won't tell people about it. And it's like you got to figure it out on your own, or you just have to come across it. That's why I always say you got to like check to make sure your stuff is clicked, because they will unclick it for you. So yeah, that's why I said make sure those of you who are in the chat, hey my Kim, make sure those of you who are in the chat right now to make sure that all your stuff is clicked on. And like I say, if you have to check it every day, go ahead and do that. Y'all know I upload 4 videos a day, 9 a.m., 12 p.m., 4 p.m., and 8 p.m., all Eastern Standard Time. Because it's crazy how it's hard for me to sometimes even crack 100 views on my premiere videos unless the video goes well over 15 minutes. I've noticed that. If the video is less than 15 minutes on my 8 p.m. premiere videos, it never cracks 100 views. Never. It's like YouTube knows when to then send the alert out. And then sometimes when they send the alert out, it's like halfway into the video and it's almost over. By the time the person shows up, the video is almost done playing. And the same thing with my subscribers. I keep gaining subscribers and then I lose them. Like for instance, I cracked 28,000, maybe 110 subscribers one day. The next day I saw that thing was down to 28,096. So how in the hell do I gain like 10 subscribers and then lose 14 in hours? So I know that they're unsubscribing people too as well. So make sure y'all subscribe button is clicked as well. See, look, Francis Osborne says I don't know if that's a man or a woman. They said they just got the notification and I've been streaming for 12 minutes so far. Good thing I haven't gotten into the topic yet. Nino Reggie said, am I taking calls today? I'm not sure if I'm taking calls or not. I wasn't planning on doing it. I don't know. I may not. I'm not sure. Because I know when I was on my old channel, those notifications used to go out the minute the video posted. Now they send the notifications out when they feel like it. And sometimes, and I even read this somewhere where they say that on YouTube, they only send out notifications, or they only give out up to 3 notifications a day. So I wonder what they mean by that. I wonder if they're saying they send out 3 notifications from a YouTuber's channel to their subscribers, or to the subscribers, is that saying to them that they're only allowed to get 3 subscription notifications a day, no matter who it comes from? Meaning that if y'all are subscribed to other people, which I'm assuming you are, if y'all get 3 notifications and none of them come from me, by the time I upload my video, you don't get mine, because I would be considered the 4th video. I wonder if that's what that means. Or it could be a combination of both. And see, my Kim said, I haven't received any bell notifications on this channel for anything. Nubian DNA said I had to resubscribe again. And see, I remember a couple months ago, maybe well into last year, I had sent like the little thing or whatever to YouTube talking about how, yeah, the notifications aren't working. It was something else that I said didn't work, and then they sent me some BS back that was not really answering my questions, but it's almost like they were trying to rush me off. And see, that's the thing. YouTube doesn't have a line that you can call, because they know if they had a line you could call, their phone lines would always be busy, because a lot of people got complaints about this platform. And Solo Dolo says the reminders don't work either, because you can set the reminders on like the live streams and the premiere videos, because those are only 2 type of videos you can do the reminders for. And he says those don't even work. And you know how I know they don't work either? Because I tested it out, and I would set the reminder on my own premiere video, and when 8 o'clock will come, it would never send me a reminder. It would never send me the notification, or you're going live, or your premiere started. They used to send 2 of them. They would send The one 30 minutes ahead of time saying that it's premiering in 30 minutes, or if it's a live stream, your live is about to begin in 30 minutes, and they'll send another one saying, oh, the premiere has started or the live has started. They don't send that second one out. That's why many of you don't come into the premiere when it happens, or you don't see it until after it's done. Or if they send it, it's well into it. I keep saying they need to fire that Susan chick, because she does not know what the hell she's doing. I did a video about her a couple of times. They need to fire her ass, period. I think a lot of people on YouTube, even bigger YouTubers than me, who have way bigger platforms, have a problem with that woman. But I'm gonna have a video actually kind of talking about that tomorrow, but it's not going to be about her, but it's going to be, I guess it's almost, it's not tied in, but it has some similarities. Kimberly Bryan says, I still get both. Scales 2247 happens on my channel also. But I miss the old YouTube before Google got a hold of it. Or even right when Google got a hold of it. Even when Google first bought it, it wasn't all of these issues. The issue started to begin with that adpocalypse thing back in 2017 with PewDiePie. That's when all the issues really started. And now looking back at it, I wouldn't be surprised if that was a setup to why everything is the way it is now. Excuse me. And see another one. Cat PY2 said the alert didn't come through, but I'm here and I'm 17 minutes in. And the reason why I'm talking, I'm kind of stalling it now, is because of those comments like that. I want everyone, as many people as possible, to hear what I'm about to discuss. I haven't gotten into the topic yet. I have not even, y'all don't even know what I'm about to talk about yet. Because people are still coming in because they're getting alerted late. Dark Shadow said you received notifications from this channel, but you didn't get one for this stream. See, like I told you, their notifications are all the way messed up. It's a shame that I'm almost 20 minutes into the stream and I haven't talked about it yet. But like I said, I want as many people to hear what I'm about to talk about first. That way I won't have people coming into the comment section saying, damn, I missed it. What's going on, Shy Dimples? I'm looking at my live stream counter right now. It's currently at 18:30. When it gets to 20 minutes exactly, I'm going to go ahead and get started. See, Nino Red said, I only know when you, Tariq, PBT, and TBA are live because of Twitter. Now y'all see why I tell y'all to get on Twitter. I know some of you say that you can't because some of you may have been banned from Twitter. So that's why I say the Twitter notifications work. Just imagine if all 28,000 plus of my subscribers was on Twitter and they followed me. Do you know how many people will be watching this stream right now? I'm not going to say all 28,000 are going to be watching, but it would be way more than 80 something. That's for damn sure. So I'm going to get started in about 30 more seconds. So this is just a long introduction right here, I guess you could say. And Solo Dolo, shout out to you for sharing the stream, my link to my Twitter link in the chat. Appreciate it. Shout out to everybody who has shared my stream on Twitter. Okay, it is 20 minutes in. So the introductory part is done. So whoever comes in will come in. If they miss the stream, they can listen to the playback. So the topic of discussion today, as y'all can see by the title, is called Demasking Palm-Colored Guilt. And I think this is the perfect picture to use for that. But what made me want to do this video, and shout out to Craig J, because he sent me the article. I was going to read the article. I still am going to read it, but I was going to do it in the form of a pre-recorded video. But it was a certain part of the article that I read up to and I stopped reading and I didn't get past it. And it was one part in there, and I'm going to focus a little bit on that when I get to that part, that made me want to do this in the form of a live stream. That, and I haven't done a live stream in like over a week. So that's another reason as to why. So it gives me an excuse to do one. And I think in real time would be the best way to do it. But anyway, Craig J sent me this article from the Daily Kos. I think that's how you pronounce the name of it. And it was an article that was posted on February 25th, 2020. And it is called White Parents Force Suspension of Whiteness Studies High School Course. So now it shows we're getting into the fragility part of it. Is based from just the sound of that alone. It sounds like they're going to talk about palm-colored people's history from a standpoint that has never been taught before. Because whenever they teach their history, they only going to show the glamorized parts of it. They're not going to show the bad part. But they can show the bad parts of everybody else's history, especially ours, and makes them in a way that makes them look good. So the article goes on. In an attempt to deny the existence of systemic or institutional racism, white parents of students at a high school in Wisconsin's Delavan-Darien School District have successfully had quote-unquote American diversity, a course on the subject, banned from the curriculum. So they fought tooth and nail and yelled and moaned and cried and bitched and were able to get this curriculum removed. Now, we don't know as of yet why they have had it removed or why they were crying to get it removed, even though just by reading those first few sentences, or we already, even reading the title, we already know or have a feeling or a reason as to why that is. The parents object to the teaching that quote unquote minorities have been and continue to be oppressed by white people. I'll read that again. The parents object to the teaching that quote unquote minorities have been and continue to be oppressed by white people. They don't like having that mask held up in their face. Hence why I use this picture. I wish I picked up got a mirror that I could have did it, because that's more fitting. But I like this picture. I really did. But they don't like having that that reflection, I guess you could say, held up in their face when someone or people in general tell them about themselves. Because they'll always come back with this. We did not own your ancestors. We weren't slave owners, but you benefit off of the slave labor. By them banning this, I'm almost curious now what was taught. I'm curious now. What was in that curriculum? Teach me something. And you want to know what's so crazy? I bet you it wasn't even that bad to why they got upset. But then again, when it comes to palm-colored people, it doesn't take much to piss them off. Especially when it imposes onto their very existence that has helped them thrive for hundreds of years. Mostly off of the backs of our ancestors, and even today, us. Salute to everybody who has just come into the chat. I can't read all of your names as of right now, because I don't want to lose my space on this article. One anonymous parent said the course instills white guilt into her child. White guilt instills white guilt into her child. See, the thing is, palm-colored people on a historic level have never been made to apologize, let alone really truly acknowledge the role that even their ancestors played in the creation of this establishment. Until this day, they still don't want to apologize for it. And you know what? And I'm sure everyone else in intelligent black society aren't even looking for their little ass apology. What they'll do now is saying what we'll do for you if you vote for us. That's what they're saying now. I guess that's their form of an apology. No, just cut that check. That'll be enough apologizing for us. But they won't even do that. They got so many excuses for that. Meanwhile, in case y'all haven't heard, I believe they said that the stock market lost trillions of dollars in the stock market alone this week from that coronavirus. Like the New York Stock Exchange and all of that. They lost like $5 trillion. Shout out to Lisa Cabrera because she's been really on this. Like her last few videos, I don't think she's really talked about anything else in the last couple of days except this coronavirus thing. But I believe the stock market has lost trillions of dollars and they're still losing money. Yet when black people, American-born black people specifically, said we want our reparations, we can't talk about that right now. That's going to have to wait. Okay, fine. The smart thing would have been to just cut the check, because if you had, then I'm almost certain black people would have funneled it right back into the establishment and probably saved you from the continuing recurring debt that you have amassed over the years. And isn't that something that the same nation that the U.S. is in debt to, which is China, is where the coronavirus originated from? Isn't that something that just kind of hit me in the head right quick? The same country, the same nation that America is in debt to is the same one that started the coronavirus and now has brought it here, causing the stock market to literally crumble in a week. How poetic is that? And guess what? The U.S. may lose trillions of dollars in that stock market, but they better still pay what they owe. Like Riley said in Boondocks, they gonna pay what they owe. You know, Red, you said your brother's in Beijing. How was it over there? What's going on, Albert? How is it over there? Because let me tell you, this damn coronavirus is affecting a lot of shit. I've even heard that over in Japan, a place that is known to have school all year round, they said they're closing the schools there from now until April to see if they can get a hold on this thing. That's unheard of. And you know the Olympic Games, the Summer Olympic Games, it's supposed to be in Tokyo this year. That's up in the air whether that's going to happen. I almost feel bad for those athletes who trained for the last couple of years for this, only to be said, well, we need to worry about your safety and your health. So you may not be competing this year. There may not be no Olympics this year. And now it's here in the States. Just this week alone, it has hit New York, California, Maryland, Virginia, and maybe some other places. I think it's even touched some places in maybe possibly the Caribbean. And now it might even be on the continent. And yes, people are wearing masks like crazy. Those face masks and gloves. It's crazy out here. This is the first time I really talked about the coronavirus. And I didn't even mean to bring it up on this stream, but it just kind of, it just slipped out. Scales is in Texas too. And notice that it's like covering borders. Like you gotta think New York, Maryland, Virginia, East Coast, Texas, the southern part, California, the West Coast. Do y'all see what's going on? It's starting to border. Before you know it, it's going to be in Midwestern northern states like Ohio, as if they need another epidemic, quote unquote, on their hands. They already have that opioid plague kicking their ass. Imagine throwing that coronavirus on them too. Rap guy said only her Asians are affected by it. It started there. It started in Asia. It started in China. That's where it came from. But I didn't want to really get too much into that. I just wanted to bring that part up. Let me go ahead and get back into this article because there's still some more to read. And I haven't even gotten to the point I wanted to get to, which made me want to make this live stream. It goes on to read, it's meant to divide and victimize non-whites and condition whites to feel guilty and to be more passive, the parent said in a report. Now, this is the same parent that was saying that it would instill white guilt into her child. She said it's meant to divide and victimize non-whites and condition whites to feel guilty and to be more passive. You know what that just says to me? That I don't want to own up to the shit I've done. Notice that whenever the topic of racism, white supremacy comes up, the first thing that many of these individuals will come back is with reverse racism, which is one I haven't heard in a while, or that's in the past, or you should get over it. What's another one? We didn't own your ancestors. And if you don't talk about racism, it'll go away. I think those are like the top 4 or 5 that you'll hear a lot of. But if the shoe was on the other foot, remember that situation a couple years ago with the McGraw-Hill books in Texas, where they were saying how they were going to rearrange how slavery was and say that it was not slavery or enslavement, that it was black people voluntarily coming over here to want to work for white people, and how we pushed back against that hard until they changed that. But notice the same people that's complaining about this curriculum of American studies, meaning white studies about white people, they didn't say anything about that, because to change the narrative of slavery would make them feel good and look good to the masses. They're comfortable with lies as long as it covers their ass. But when it affects them, then they want to turn the tide and make it work in their favor. Yes, Ashton, they love to say the Irish were slaves. They were indentured servants. That's 2 different things. But let them tell it, it's something completely different. It's the same exact thing. Just like when I did that video about that college professor who said saying okay boomer was the same thing as the N-word. See how they like to equate little shit like that to the harsh treatment we get verbally or otherwise? Or when Heidi Klum said she felt offended because someone referred to her as a white woman. Well, aren't you? Aren't you a Caucasian woman? Because I could swear that if you was just a regular person and you worked the job, they asked for your ethnicity, you would not put down German. And if you did, they would say, oh, she's probably white. They love to change history's narrative to fit their mood, I guess you could say. But only when it's their mood, nobody else's. But when it's somebody else's history, they like to tamper with it. That's why I can't stand what Naomi Campbell said, that it shouldn't be called Black History Month. It should be called People of Color Month, or whatever the hell she said, that BS she said. Then I found out in my comment section that over in the UK, they have a Black History Month, but it's in October. So I'm looking like, so you want to come over here and try to change what's been on the books for years, but you have a whole Black History Month in the UK in a whole nother month, but then want to change the one that we have here to fit everybody else under this in the month. Mind you, February, leap year or not, is the shortest month. It happens to be a leap year this year, so we just got an extra day. 29 instead of 28. Solo Dope, shout out to you. Solo Dope said chattel slavery is unforgivable and unforgettable. Exactly. But they would want us to forgive and forget it. But when it comes to that Holocaust, you bet not speak against it. Remember I did that video about that black principal in Florida who had the nerve in their eyes to question the Holocaust and if it was real or not? Or was it as extreme as they claim? And what happened to him? He got reprimanded. Now let a palm-colored person say the same thing about slavery and they try to reprimand them. Well, it's just freedom of speech. That's another thing that gets me too. They love to use that freedom of speech thing when it works for them, but when you try to use it, you end up like me. You get shadow banned, or you get reprimanded like that principal down in Florida, or you may lose your livelihood. Let me continue. Another parent added, they're teaching white guilt. They're dividing the students. They're saying to non-whites, you have been oppressed and you're still being oppressed. Well, if you look around the establishment today, in the last couple of years alone, and you can look on YouTube and look at all these police brutality videos, who are the main ones who are being targeted? When you look around this establishment today and you look back a couple years ago when you had those palm-colored people, especially the palm-colored woman, calling the cops on black people just because they want to barbecue in a public park and then try to pretend to cry, who were they doing that to? They weren't doing it to other people that look like them. Are they starting to see the pattern here? See, that's another one. Remember the one when they like to say, I don't see color? I haven't heard that one in a while, but at one point they love to say, I don't see color. They love to say, I don't see color. That's a huge deflection right there. Because by them saying, I don't see color, excuse me, especially when it comes to black people, because when they say I don't see color, they really directed it towards us. When they say I don't see color, they basically say I don't see your pain, I don't see your struggle, I don't see a problem with what it is you're going through, even at our hands. And it may not be my hands physically, but when I say our hands, I'm talking about them as a collective. Let's see. It says Delavan Darien School District Superintendent Robert Christ fielded a great many complaints about both the very idea of the course and its methodology. According to the Daily Mail report, for example, one assignment sent students to Walmart to count the number of black dolls versus white dolls. Chris said, a lot of red flags go up in my mind when I look at the materials. And indeed, Chris has flatly agreed with the parents, saying that their concern has merit. The class has been suspended pending Chris's evaluation. So you heard that. They said one of the assignments had them to go to Walmart to count how many white dolls there were compared to how many black dolls there were. You know when I hear about that, you know what this reminds me of? You know what it makes me sound, what it almost sounds like the teacher who could have been for this course? Jane Elliott. Remember, didn't she do a course like this back in the day, like way back in the day? I think it was the doll test. No, it wasn't a doll test. It was something else. But she used to get them white people in check, and they didn't like her for that. But I think it almost sounds like a course that Jane Elliott would teach. Sometimes if I need a good laugh, I'll go and look up Jane Elliott videos and watch her check them white people and see them like get mad and upset and stomp out the room and have tantrums and all types of shit. Like, if y'all have never gotten a chance to look at her courses on YouTube and watch white people react to how she's teaching, it will make you laugh. That shit is hilarious. Thank you, Solo Dolo. The eye test, right? The eye test, the brown eye, the blue eye, the green eye, the hazel eye. Yeah, thank you. The eye test. But yeah, it was someone else did the doll test. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. I knew it was one of those tests. I remember it was one video I was watching a couple years ago on YouTube where Jane Elliott was doing a course where it was some white college students. And one girl in there, who looked like Chicken Little. I swear she really did look like Chicken Little. Like, she had the short haircut, the glasses, the face, everything. And Jane Elliott just said something to her, and she got so upset and just had a whole Academy Award winning tantrum and stomped her ass out of that classroom. But you know what that says? And Jane Elliott, being a white woman, she knows what it is. But you know what that is? It's because historically, palm-colored people have never been put in their place. And it was one of those how dare you moments. How dare you tell us about ourselves? How dare you try to correct us? How dare you tell us what to do? Because for all of history, they've been doing that to other people. It's like in that position where I can tell you what to do. You can't tell me what to do. I'm over you. I'm your boss. I run this. Don't try to come in here and inflate. But here's the thing. Plot twist. Jane Elliott isn't black. She's white. So that made it doubly offensive. Why? Because she would be seen as a traitor. And in many cases, she has been called a traitor by other white people. And see, because of that, they really can't touch her. They can try. They probably try to, but they don't get very far with it. What's going on, Patricia? But like I said, it's that thing of they've been in control for so long that the minute you tell them no, or that's not how that's going to go, or that's not how it's going to fly, they lose their shit. Because in that moment, when they're told no, even in that slight moment, they feel a little bit of power is being taken away from them. You can tell them something as simple as, I'll give you an example. Like, if you go to a store and they want to buy, let's say a palm color woman wants to buy some MAC makeup, but the particular set that she wants is not at the store and is sold out. And the person tells her that, sorry, man, we don't have it. And she throws a tantrum because of it. It's not the person at the register's fault that they don't have it. It's just that you just didn't get there, and you can always go and order online. But the minute you tell them no, all hell breaks loose. All hell raises through them. I'll never forget when I used to work at the airport, where it was this white guy who looked just like the goddamn Michelin Man. When it was, because when I worked at, most of the people who worked at the counter, because I used to work in the back, were black. And he was dealing with a black woman. And they were trying to tell this man that something was wrong with his flight. And he was trying to tell them that he had to be somewhere. And they were telling him, like, look, we've already told you. And they were saying it in a calm tone, we cannot do anything from here. We get our marching orders from the pilot. And he literally blew up. His face turned so red. He looked like goddamn Clifford the Big Red Dog. And he had a whole tantrum. Now, this is a grown ass man. Had a whole tantrum because the people who were working there couldn't do something that was out of their control. It was like looking at a big ass kid who was told by their parents, no, you can't get that candy bar today. I wish I could have recorded that. And I would have had a good vantage point to do it. Because I swear the way he was balling his fist up and like banging it on the table, or well, not the table, but the little counter stand. But what was so funny, what was so interesting, is that the women that were standing there, not once did they budge. Like, I'm looking at his body language and I'm looking at this, and I'm standing right there because I'm just sitting. The reason I'm standing there is because I'm making sure that he doesn't try to reach across the counter. And I'm like kind of standing at a distance, but close enough to see. They did not once flinch when that man was like seemingly looking like he was going to charge at them. Because what he was trying to do was to intimidate them, but they were looking at this guy like he was crazy. And so the thing is, the reason why they didn't do anything, one, because they knew that if they did something, it would affect their job. And that's probably what he was trying to get them to do, was to blow up at him so he could turn the table on them. But at the same time, it's in the airport, federal government owned property, and there's security there. So if he tried something, cameras would have caught him, security would have came and arrested him, and he would have got assault charges. And you don't want to get an assault charge on federal government owned property. But the fact of the matter is that this was a white man being told that it was an inconvenience for him by not one, but actually two black women, because one of them had to get assistance because they saw what was going on. She had to leave her post to come and help her coworker deal with this behemoth. So in that moment, he probably felt he was being double teamed. No, it's because you were acting like an asshole. Let me see. Where did I stop off at? Okay. Young America's Foundation, which also looked over the curriculum with the anonymous parent, went even further in its critique. It labeled the course as, here's the other one, race baiting. I forgot about that one. Race baiting. That's the other terminology they love to use. Race baiting. This course offers a snapshot of a larger trend that has plagued university curriculum for years and has only recently crept into high school classrooms, wrote Brandon Pringle, a staff member at Young America's Foundation. Professors and teachers are increasingly telling white students that they are part of the problem of racism. Well, considering y'all created the social construct known as race, and you systematically can produce racism, I would say hell yeah. And this is, and are telling black students that they are second-class citizens. Well, guess what? There's something called the 3/5 compromise that was put into the Constitution years ago that stated that black people were considered and looked to be only as 3/5 of a human being. Basically, we have, by their standards, we're beneath that of a dog, which is probably why many of them love dogs more than they would ever care to like us. They put dogs up above human life. And when you look at the systems put into place, you will see that black people have been put into a category of being a second-class citizen. At this point, though, I don't think black people are even second-class anymore. Thanks to the uptick in immigration, we have now taken a backseat another class to the third class, to Hispanics and Latinos who are here illegally. Most of them. I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them are. Rap God said that blacks are the real racists. They only call black people racist when we call them out on their shit. That's the only time they want to say racism. That's just like with the Alphabet Academy, when you say that you don't like the lifestyle of the Alphabet Academy and they say you're homophobic. Same difference. It doesn't make any sense. They just kind of throw something out there and hope that it sticks. Shout out to you, Solo Dolly says shave the hair off the dog and you'll see why they love them so much. I was going to say you could shave the hair off of an ape and you'll see exactly who the real Neanderthal is. But let me continue. Professors and teachers are increasingly telling... Oh, I read that part already. It says, and are telling black students they are second-class citizens. This race-baiting technique is an attack on American values and can only breed bitterness and envy. You want to know what's so crazy? Y'all want to know the irony of that statement? If this was 50 something odd years ago during Jim Crow, the wording of what has been said here, what I just read, would read completely different. One of Palm Colored's biggest kryptonite, if they were to be compared to Superman, one of their biggest kryptonite would be the word diversity. Many of them absolutely hate that word. It makes them cringe, most of them, every time they hear that word. And then when they do mention diversity, I'm talking about the liberal white person, they'll find a way to insert themselves into it. And when I say themselves, when they say diversity, they'll find a way to insert white women in there. When they say diversity, they mean every other person except a white man. They're losing their agency right now. And they are panicking. They are losing their shit. And they don't know how to get a grip onto it. Course materials included a paper by University of Texas Professor Robert Jensen, who argues that no one, individual or groups, has complete control of their fate. There is not space here to list all the ways in which white privilege plays out in our lives, but it is clear that I will carry this privilege with me until the day white supremacy is erased from society. So far, this Robert Jensen is the only person so far who has written something that actually makes a shred of sense in this entire article. And I'm not even done reading it yet. I don't even think I'm halfway through. The anonymous parent, however, believes Jensen's arguments amount to ideology and are politically driven. Meaning, in their eyes, it's some bullshit. I felt it was indoctrination, she said. This is a radical left agenda and ideology that is now embedded in our school. The fact that this person said that this is a radical left lets me know which way she leans politically, which is heavily to the right. That's another thing that white people love to do. They love to bring up this left thing, this right thing, this liberal thing, this conservative thing. Like I've said, right, left, liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, all attached to two different wings on the same blood-sucking, demonic, red-eyed bat. But they love to have you to believe that it's two different things. Meanwhile, they actually kind of share the same ideologies, but they just express them differently. Exactly, Reve. Never the middle. Whiteness studies have been around for some time now. It is an attempt to interrogate the reality of racism as seen from its victim's perspective. Previously, throughout social science history, the issue of race has always been viewed and studied from the vantage point of the advantaged group, i.e. white people. Whiteness studies looks at racism and white supremacy through black people's eyes and forces white people to look at themselves as just another racial group among many, rendering them just as racist as they race label blacks their putative racial polar opposites. There lies the reason as to why the palm-colored people in Wisconsin are adamant on removing this course. Because this class allows black people to have control of the narrative. Because like it said, it has allowed white people to control the narrative for so long. But now that it allows black people to express how white supremacy is to them through their lens, through their scope, now they're upset. Which lets you know that when it came through their scope, it was nothing but a bunch of lies that came through it. But there's always that saying that there's their truth, your truth. I'm sorry, there's let me I don't like using that terminology, their truth. You have, the opinion and everything, and then you have somewhere in the middle where the truth lies. And we know when it comes from palm-colored people, most of it is nothing but lies. Whiteness studies groups drops all pretenses. Right, Nina, thank you. That's what I was trying to think of. 3 sides to every story. Whiteness study groups drops all pretenses, all excuses, and all rationalizations. It therefore forces white people to finally face, admit, acknowledge, and most importantly, account for the fact of white privilege in this society. What I'm reading to you now in this article is the explanation as to why white people or palm-colored people don't want this in the curriculum anymore. And unfortunately, they succeeded. It's out. The whiteness studies or whatever it's called has been removed. They were successful with that because it buries that part of their history, the part that they prefer to stay buried and never to be unearthed. One example should do. Andrew Hacker is a professor emeritus in political science at Queen College in New York. In 1992, he wrote a book entitled Two Nations, Black and White, Separate, Hostile, Unequal. There he described an experiment he conducted with some of his white undergraduate students. And it went like this. On a midterm exam, he asked one essay question that if they woke up tomorrow morning, looked in the mirror, and discovered that somehow they had magically turned into a black person, how much money did they think they would be compensated therefor? They were given 3 choices: $1 million, $10 million, $50 million. After each student gave his or her written answer and defended their position during class discussion, Professor Hacker said, "None of you thought it strange that you should be compensated for quote unquote losing your whiteness. That is because you have been socialized to believe and now automatically assume that whiteness, your whiteness in particular, is worth something immaterial. In this case, monetary terms. And you further assume that whatever amount you chose, it showed that whiteness is more valuable than blackness." He basically pulled a gotcha moment on all of his students, and they didn't even realize it until he broke it down to them. Let me read that again just in case some of y'all didn't catch it. If they woke up tomorrow, looked in the mirror, and discovered that somehow they had magically been turned into a black person, how much money did they think they would be compensated therefor? Three choices: $1 million, $10 million, and $50 million. Basically, they're saying that they would take that money and trade it in their whiteness for blackness if they could get paid for it. Meaning they would sacrifice their being white just to be paid to be black. And thus showed that their whiteness has no value. And they didn't even realize it until the professor broke it down. If they were smart, they would have said that it's priceless and I don't want the money. I would rather be white. Like Solo Dolo said, greed. Greed. All they heard was the money. That's all they heard. That's just like when a lot of those palm colored people voted for 45 and all they heard was build the wall and make America great again. But now fast forward a little bit later, a lot of these white people are out here saying how much they're struggling under 45. But they don't put a lot of their stories out there in mass because they have to keep this facade up that he's such a great president to his base. I've seen so many videos where white people have literally said that they are struggling. And I actually, if y'all remember on my original channel back in 2016, like the day after 45 was elected, I did a video talking about how a lot of those people are going to regret voting for Trump. I said it wouldn't be today. It may not be tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. But they're going to eventually regret it. And sure enough, about 2 years later, what I predicted came true. Slowly but surely, a lot of them started to regret it. Because all they heard was make America great again and build that wall. They showed their natural ass in 2016. And the only reason they did all of that is because they could not stand number 44. They couldn't wait for him to leave up out of there, that they were willing to put someone a lot more, I guess you can see, just as sinister in his place. But when you look back at what 44 has done, he did more for them than he did for us. But let them tell it, he did everything for black people because he was a quote unquote black president. Trump doesn't even acknowledge that opioid plague. He's trying to almost shun off this coronavirus thing. And most of the base of his base, like that hardcore base, if you look around, many of them live in squalor. Hell, some of us live better than a lot of his base does. Truth be told. But because he spoke in a certain tone and said certain things, that's why they are so far up his ass. You're right, Shot Dimples. Obama did a lot for that Alphabet Academy. He was the one that approved them to have same-sex marriage under him. And even then, after he did that, they still continue to talk shit about him. Make it make sense. Right, Reve, he helps the rich. To all them poor trailer trash ones, he could care less. And those are the ones that be at his rallies. Them rich ones that people voted for 45, they not at his rallies. Now, if he has like some kind of gala, they'll show up to that, maybe. But to those going to his rallies, that's your backwoods, tobacco chewing, cousin fucking, dog licking, inbred, hillbilly hick that's at the rallies. With a few select boot licking, buck dancing, butter biscuit eating buffoons that are in the crowd in the mix as well. Let me continue reading the article. Professor Hacker's experiment reveals that white privilege, white racism, and white supremacy are all rolled into one big system founded on the advantages, assumed worthiness, preferences, and yes, a superiority that is consciously or unconsciously granted and then passed along and down to all owners of so-called white skin. But because whiteness is considered the norm in this society, okay, hold on. Before I go any further, this part right here that I'm about to read to you is where I stopped at that made me want to read, or I'm not read, but do this live stream. Follow me here when I read this next sentence. But because whiteness is considered the norm in this society, white people do not see themselves as privileged, but rather just as normal. Everything else, everybody else who is not white, who does not meet the quote unquote standard of whiteness, is to a greater or lesser degree abnormal. If I had a mic I could drop, I would drop it right now. Let me read that part to you again. But because whiteness is considered the norm in this society, white people do not see themselves as privileged, but rather as just normal. Everything else, everybody else who is not white, who does not meet the standard of whiteness, is to a greater or lesser degree abnormal. Why do you think so many white people get upset when you bring up the word white privilege, or they'll try to attribute it to your financial status? I believe Harvey mentioned this in his latest video. You have a lot of white people that will say, oh, I don't have white privilege because I don't live in a mansion. I don't live or have a Ferrari or a Tesla or anything like that, or I don't go around on private. No, white privilege doesn't mean you're just your financial status. That's a small part of it. That's a very small part of it. The fact that you can benefit from this system that has been built and constructed around you and your way of life to help you guide you through life is privilege. Look at Brock Turner. He raped a woman behind a dumpster while she was drunk, and all he got was 3 months in jail. White privilege. Ethan Couch, he stole his parents' vehicle, went drunk driving, and killed 4 people, and he didn't go to jail not one day for what he did because they said he had affluenza. White privilege. All those people all these palm-colored women who have lied on black men saying that they raped them, and not once did she get reprimanded for what she did, even after that man had to spend years in jail behind a lie. White privilege. And all the people that I just mentioned, with the exception of maybe Ethan Couch, don't come from wealth. It's so many more that I could list. Now, the other part, like I said, that who does not meet the standard of whiteness. Does not meet the standard of whiteness. You know how you have a lot of white people that says I can't be racist because I have a black friend? In their eyes, not only is their black friend, quote unquote, their standard of whiteness, but they're also a prop. I'm like, I hope you know that you're being used. And let me tell you something right now. When white people say they have a black friend, they mean just that. Most of them just have that one black friend. You might have one that has 2. But for the most part, most of them only have that one. How I know this? Because where I work at, usually when it's a group of white people and one black person, I say, oh, that's that one black friend right there. That's that one black friend. And when they say the standard of whiteness, thank you, my Kim. She says that means anyone not black. That means that could be your Hispanic. That can be your Asian. That can be your Arab. Hell, that could even, for some, that may, and this is just a may, that may even be the quote unquote mixed or biracial person. And even then, they may not even meet the standard. Look at what happened with so many, well, I don't know if she's mixed or not, but I'm going to just use her as an example. I'm not sure. But look at the little girl down in Florida who got put in that mental institution for 2 days because she threw a tantrum. Allegedly. I'm not saying that she's mixed or not, but she's really light-skinned. Exactly. The black friend is the token. And unfortunately, so many of them enjoy being the token Negro. They need their ass beat. After, of course, or before they get flashed from the camera and get out, because apparently they've had too many clinks of the teacup. They are in the sunken place, for real. Now, I'm going to continue reading now. Like I said, I only read up into the part that I just stopped on because that's what made me want to read this and do this live stream. So the next part that I'm reading is my first time reading this part. And so, most white people hardly notice or rarely object to the built-in barriers to home ownership for blacks. They are, quote-unquote, blind. Remember when they say they don't see racism? To the many hurdles placed before non-whites as they seek equal education and job opportunities. They do not see anything wrong with jails and prisons replacing schools in black and brown communities, even as those jails and prisons are grossly, disproportionately filled to overflowing with black and brown people. Remember, those prisons are a multi-billion-dollar industry. I believe it was in Philly where they closed down a school in a black neighborhood because it wasn't getting proper funding. But guess what they decided to put in its place? A goddamn prison in a majority black neighborhood. Tell me that's not a setup. Tell me that's not a coincidence. The irony of it all. Look at what Bloomberg did with stop and frisk in New York. That wasn't to get white people. As a matter of fact, I don't think one white person to my knowledge fell under the thumb of stop and frisk. What's going on, True Royal family? Exactly, Leader Michelle. Prison is legalized slavery. 13th Amendment. Yep, Stephanie. School to prison pipeline is real. Nowadays, it might be school to mental institution. Y'all remember that little, well, the video just recently came out of that little girl that was placed in handcuffs. Another six, I think she was 6. And I think that was a black cop that did that. They don't send these kids home like for suspension or in school detention or nothing like that. They arrest them. Meanwhile, you have all these palm-colored teenagers running around here with these military style weapons, shooting up the damn place. And they handle them with kid gloves. Meanwhile, you're out here arresting children under the age of 10 who are black because they threw a tantrum. And then you don't tell their parents. I couldn't even imagine what that mother felt like when she found out her daughter was put in a mental institution for 2 days and she didn't even know about it. Probably put a whole bunch of drugs inside of that girl that wasn't supposed to be there. And then they said she suffered from ADHD, which means she was already on some kind of medication. I said, pull her out of the school. Simply put, pull her out of the school, but make sure you sue the school district as well. Exactly, Stephanie. They stormed government office buildings. The Bundy family. Y'all remember that a couple years ago? Federal buildings. Kept people out of work. for a couple of weeks because they couldn't get their way. And not one of them went to jail. Remember the shootout with that biker gang in Waco, Texas? I think some of them got killed, both cops and the gang members. But the ones who lived, they did not serve 1 day in jail. Meanwhile, Micah Johnson has a robotic bomb who we have not have heard of since that happened, that was sent in and blew him up. And that happened in Texas too. Let me continue. This also answers the question I've long grappled with. How do white people live with the knowledge of such a long documented, deep and bloody history of dehumanization of every single so-called non-white group they have ever encountered? Let me read that again. How do white people live with the knowledge of such a long documented, deep, bloody history of dehumanization of every single so-called non-white group they have ever encountered? That is the question. That is the $1 million question of the day. How do many of them even sleep at night knowing that their ancestors have literally affected the scope of the globe, not just in the US, but we're talking the globe, where you can go and cause turmoil on other people's lands and then try to claim it as your own, and in some cases have claimed it as your own. Look at the US. That's a prime example. That's like ground zero. Shout out to you, Solo Doses. Rest in power, Micah X. Yes, rest in power to him, Gavin Long, and Christopher Dorner. In fact, many white folks these days consider themselves colorblind in terms of race. I don't see race. I don't see colors. They will tell you, but they are the ones that created the social construct of race. Somebody please help me make it make sense. How is it you don't see race, but you created it? You created the social construct of race. You created the social construct of white. You created the social construct of black. You created the social construct of yellow. You created the social construct, hell, of even light-skinned, biracial. What else? How many names of black people gone through thanks to them? Colored, Negro, the other N-word, African. Well, black people came up with that one, but yeah. So like so many, especially black people, we've gone through so many different constructs, so to speak. Mainly due to them. Right, Patricia? That was the one I was thinking of, mulatto. That's the one I was thinking of, mulatto, because I couldn't think of the word. As noted, this attitude, this belief, or this condition is not blindness, of course. What has happened is that blacks and other non-whites have been rendered invisible by and to whites, especially when it comes down to equal access and equal opportunities for success in this capitalist and money-driven society. And you can look at the racial wealth gap and see that. You have white people whose wealth is like all the way up to the point where it can almost shoot out of the graph. And then you look down all the way below, and black people's wealth or median income for a black family or black people in general looks like a damn curb. Yeah, white people, that their racial hierarchy looks like a skyscraper, and ours looks like a goddamn corner store. If that. For the great bulk of white people who have, by means of all-consuming, never-ending global violence, come to dominate everything and everybody, they have been at it for so long and so thoroughly that for these folks, quote unquote, equality has come to signal to mean loss of privilege, loss of preference, loss of power, and loss of dominance. What did I tell y'all? Equality, diversity can kind of play off of each other. They hate that word because of what this person just said, the loss of something. But they said the loss of privilege, loss of preference, loss of power, and loss of dominance. That's why when they hear that year 2045, they kind of shiver a little bit. It sends a dark, deep chill through their body. Scares the hell out of them. Because that's all they've ever known. Now you'll have some white people that will come and say, well, I don't have privilege or whatever because I grew up in the hood and everything like that. Okay, fine, that's you. But guess what? Every white person never didn't grow up in the hood. And number two, I'm willing to bet that if you and another person who, say maybe a black person went for a job interview and they was looking for a certain image, you would probably get it first, and they wouldn't care that you grew up in the hood. And that black person could have grew up in the suburbs and probably could have had a better resume. I'll never forget when I was looking at a article on Yahoo a couple years ago before I started doing YouTube videos. There was this guy whose name was Jose something, and he sent in his resume, and it was a nice resume. They put it online. His nice resume had all the credentials and everything like that. He sent it in, and he never heard back from them. When he heard back from them, they just said they couldn't hire him. I forgot what the reasoning was. So what he did was he went and changed his name on his resume from Jose to Joseph. Sent the same resume back, and guess what happened? He got called in for an interview. Had them people looking kind of shocked when they found out Jose, or quote unquote Joseph, was not a palm-colored male. I will never forget that one. If I was doing YouTube back then, that would have definitely been one of the stories that I talked about. For the great bulk of white people who have, by means of all, I'm reading the same thing over. Perhaps the great emancipator Abraham Lincoln himself said it best in an 1858 debate with Stephen A. Douglas as they campaigned for a seat at the U.S. Senate. I am not, nor have I ever been, in favor of bringing about in any way the social and political equality of the white and black races. I am not, nor have ever been, in favor of making voters or jurors of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office, nor to intermarry with white people. Shout out to Solo Dolo. It says they're scared to have an equal system because they will end up like the Neanderthal. Now, with the quote I just read came from Abraham Lincoln. That's why it kills me when people, especially black people, love to praise Abraham Lincoln for quote unquote freeing the slaves. No. And mind you, this was in 1858, which was just a few short years before the abolishment of slavery in 1865. It goes on to say, and I will say in addition to this, that there is physical difference between the white and black races, which I believe will forever forbid the two races from living together on terms of social and political equality. In as much as they cannot so live, while they do remain together, there must be a position of superior and inferior. And I, as much as any other man, and in favor of having the superior position assigned to the white race. That is what Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, the one whose face is on that brown brother known as a penny, said back in 1858. And when you hear that today in 2020, still holds up. But see, he said that at a time when white people still were holding complete and utter dominance. Could you imagine what the people of back then would be saying today if they saw how everything has come out today? If they saw this today, what their reaction would be? If they saw that integration has happened, or they see that black people have become millionaires and billionaires and creating, business and wealth for themselves, they would blow a gasket. They would probably be like, okay, go ahead and just throw me back in my grave. That's probably what they would say. And so when teachers of whiteness studies try to pry open white people's eyes and minds to their privileged position in the society, those teachers and the very notion of whiteness itself are rejected out of hand and denied forthwith. And as in the case of the Wisconsin school district, the messenger is roundly vilified and sent packing. One of the first things one learns in whiteness or black studies is that white supremacy and white racism will not die unless and until white people face their own history truthfully. Denying that history only prolongs the agony of its inevitable death. Basically saying whether they want to admit to it or not, when it comes to the role that they play in all of this, it's going to die regardless. It's just a matter of time. We just don't know when it's going to happen. Hell, we don't know we're going to be here when it happens. For those curious about the photo fronting this essay, depicted are African American flood victims lined up to get food and clothing at a Red Cross relief station. They stand in front of a billboard ironically lauding the world's highest standard of living. There's no way like the American way. They stand in stark contrast to the giant picture of a smiling, happy, gainfully employed and well-fed white family, complete with their beloved and equally happy and well-fed pet dog. The husband, father, patriarch is driving them all to some happy destination in their shiny new or late model automobile. The city is Louisville, Kentucky. The year is 1937. It is no accident or coincidence, though, that all of the people standing below the picture of a happy and secure white family are black. You do not have to look very closely in order to sense the quiet, desperate uncertainty in their faces, in their eyes. This photo is no overstatement or exaggeration. It unintentionally, perhaps, graphically demonstrates a never-ending, dark, deliberate, and purposeful contrast between white life and the hard reality of black life in this nation state. Beginning even before its inception and extending right straight through to this morning. Finally, this picture brings to mind and to life an ancient ghetto proverb. When white America catches a cold, black America gets pneumonia. And it's funny because when black people got thrusted onto with that crack, guess who's suffering now with them opioids, and even worse than when black people got hit with crack and cocaine back in the 80s and early 90s. That was the entire article right there that I just read. Interesting read, by the way. I'll probably post the link to it in the comment section. Like, I'll pin it that way. If y'all want to read it yourself or share it with other people, you can go ahead and do that. But everything that was said in this article, well, after the quotes from those silly parents, was true. Like I said, that palm-colored guilt, many of it will never acknowledge it. They will never acknowledge it. Because, like I said, that's their burden to bear, but they would rather them not have to bear it. So what do they try to do? They try to bury the burden and keep it buried. Not only from themselves, but from future generations. I mean, think about it. A lot of this stuff is passed down to their children. I can't count how many stories I've come across where you've had children, whether they are under the age of 10 or under the age of 17, who would definitely be considered, they're definitely not considered millennials, who are trying to compete in a racist way against this generation. Exactly, Stephanie said they refuse to face the atrocities their ancestors have done. Well, in this age of information, they almost kind of don't have a choice. That's probably why they don't like channels like mine or Professor Black Truth or Jason Black or Tariq Nasheed and others who do commentaries like this. They hate it. Like I said, demasking palm-colored guilt, holding that mirror up in front of their face. But like I said, the crazy part about this whole article is that they were successful in removing that course from the curriculum. Now you can do a study on anybody else and they'll be all for it, as long as it doesn't talk about them. Hell, you can do a study or a course about them as long as they control the narrative in which it doesn't talk bad about them. But if you do a course about them and it is seen through the eyes of a black person, oh, then they have to dead that on arrival. Oh, you right, Nino Red. We know. Listen, that's called, for them, that's called getting on code. They will get on code fast as hell for a lie, especially if it's at the disadvantage of black people. And a lot of them would like to tell you that white supremacy is gone, is on its way out. No, the old version of it's probably gone. But this is a whole new crop we're dealing with right here. And it's called subliminal white supremacy. More covert. You can tell many of them probably have never looked or listened to Lee Atwater's racist, decayed ass. As racist as he was, he told you what it was in code speak. But some still don't understand it. Johnny Mills, yes, I did see it. Exactly, Solo Dolo. The new Jim Crow. And now that we have something called the internet, and they can troll through it, like I know they've been trolling me, that's their other way of getting their message out. Now their message can spread more faster. See, back then they had to use pamphlets and mail and newspapers and stuff like that. Now they can sprout their BS with the click of a button, the click of a mouse. And once it's out there, everybody can see it. And if you throw a hashtag behind it, and it spreads even faster. But yeah, this was definitely, like I said, a very interesting article, and I'm glad that I put it in the form of a live stream instead of a pre-recorded video, because I definitely wanted y'all to hear that And I definitely enjoyed reading it and give my own interpretation about it. But I think I'm about to head up off of here. I think I've already spoken my piece when it comes to this topic. I'm glad, and shout out to everybody who came through. Shout out to those who have donated. Shout out to those who have subscribed. I don't know when my next live stream is going to be or what topic is going to be on, but when it happens, it will indeed happen. But with that being said, make sure y'all go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, and make sure that your bell is clicked. Make sure that it says all on there and that it's grayed out, even if you got to check it every single day. Make sure you go ahead and do it. Appreciate you again, Solo Dolo. But with that being said, I'm about to head up off of here. Y'all have a good evening. The regular scheduled videos will resume, of course, tomorrow starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And with that being said, I will talk to you all